So today, we're going to talk about how one city's police department got pushed right to the absolute brink. I mean, it's a story that has everything. A crazy Hollywood-style bank heist, a truly terrifying serial killer, and a police force that was basically operating on the edge of collapse. If you're into deep dives that go way beyond the headlines, do me a favor and make sure you're subscribed. And please hit that like button. It really helps other people find this breakdown.
Okay, so let's talk about Stockton, California. This is a city that has been through it. We're talking about unimaginable violence that has forced its police department to operate on the very, very edge. And the latest test, man, it just happened on November 29th, 2025. On Lucille Avenue, gunfire just erupts. It plunged the community right back into a state of emergency and kicked off this massive police response to a scene that was, just pure chaos. And that number, 12 to 14, that's the estimated number of victims in that shooting. The human cost was just staggering. And what's even more horrifying, early reports confirmed that children, we're talking a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old, were among the people injured in that attack. Okay, so let's dive into this. To really get how Stockton got to this point, we need to look back. We're going to start with this recent crisis, then we'll look at this pattern of violence, dissect a completely chaotic bank heist, go on the hunt for serial killer, and finally, we'll break down the lessons learned to see what it all means for policing on the brink. Yeah, see, the thing is, this 2025 shooting, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It's really just the latest chapter in a decade that has been defined by some pretty extraordinary violence. There are 3 big tragedies that really stand out, and each one tested the city and its police force in a completely different way. This timeline here really shows you the pressure points. In 2014, you have this incredibly violent bank robbery and hostage situation. Then, between 2021 and 2022, you have the quiet terror of a serial killer stalking the streets. And now, 2025, the sudden horror of a mass shooting. You put them all together, and they paint a picture of a city that's been under siege for a long time. All right, to really understand the deep-seated issues here, we have to rewind back to 2014 and the Bank of the West robbery. This one incident became what experts call a sentinel event. Basically, a crisis that exposed just how immense the pressure on the Stockton Police Department truly was. So the robbery kicks off when 3 heavily armed men just storm into the bank. For the branch manager, Kelly Huber, it was this terrifying moment of déjà vu. Why? Because she immediately recognized 2 of the guys from another robbery at that same branch just 6 months earlier. The whole nightmare was happening all over again. From there, things just escalated with terrifying speed. The robbers cleaned out the vault, but that wasn't enough. They grabbed 3 female employees to use as human shields, forced them into one of the hostages' own Ford Explorers, and just burst out of the parking lot. That's what triggered this insane hour-long chase that would basically turn the city into a war zone. And the pursuit was, well, it was pure chaos. These guys were racing through city streets, hopping on freeways, hitting speeds over 120 miles per hour. And the whole time, from the back of the SUV, one of them is just opening up with an AK-47, unleashing this relentless barrage of gunfire on the officers trying to catch them. This quote from an officer who was in that chase, it just captures the sheer terror of that moment. I mean, they were being hunted by a weapon that could tear right through their patrol cars. As he said it, if it goes through my windshield, I am not going to feel it. I am just going to be gone. Just, wow. And the firepower these guys had was absolutely devastating. During that hour-long chase, their AK-47 fire completely disabled 14 separate police vehicles. They literally shot them off the road, forcing other officers to drive past the disabled cars of their friends, not knowing if they were injured or, worse. The chase finally ended in just a hail of gunfire. When the suspect's SUV was finally stopped, dozens of officers opened fire. And in that chaos, the hostage, Misty Holt-Singh, a 41-year-old mother who'd been used as a human shield, was struck 10 times. An independent review later confirmed the tragic truth. She was killed by police bullets. Now I want you to contrast that explosive, high-speed violence with the slow-burning fear that gripped Stockton years later. From 2021 to 2022, the city faced a totally different kind of psychological threat, a serial killer who was just hunting his victims in the dark. For over 18 months, a killer stalked the streets, targeting people who are alone, usually in dimly lit areas. 7 people were killed, 1 woman survived, and the motive was a complete mystery. It wasn't robbery, it wasn't gang violence, so this case required this incredibly methodical, multi-agency investigation that relied on just immense patience and skill to finally track down and arrest a suspect, Wesley Groundley. So, after all this, what can we possibly learn from these tragedies? Let's go back to that 2014 bank heist. After it was over, the Stockton police chief actually requested an independent review. And what that review found? Well, it revealed a department that was already in a deep crisis before the first shot was even fired. The report frames that whole heist as a sentinel event. Now, that's not just another word for a tragedy. Think of it more like a stress test for the entire public safety system. It's an event so critical that it's designed to expose the weaknesses so that, hopefully, they can be fixed. And let me tell you, in Stockton, the weaknesses were profound. The first huge finding was the absolutely devastating impact of the city's recent bankruptcy. The police department had lost 100 veteran officers. Training budgets were slashed to almost nothing. They had no helicopter, no air support. There was a shortage of essential gear, like rifles. So what did that mean? It meant the officers chasing suspects armed with an AK-47 were often young, inexperienced, and totally outgunned. The report also pinpointed these critical tactical failures during that final chaotic shootout. There was a complete breakdown in command and control. No one was assigned to be a dedicated marksman. And this led to something called sympathetic fire, which is basically when officers start firing just because they see other officers firing. The result? Police fired over 600 rounds, many of them after the threat had already been stopped. So when you put it all together, you have this pattern of unbelievable violence. These deep systemic weaknesses from the bankruptcy, and then these tactical breakdowns under fire. You get a really clear picture of a police department that had been stretched to its absolute breaking point. And this right here shows the core tension of the whole situation. On one side, you have individual officers showing undeniable heroism, putting their lives on the line. But on the other side, you have this under-resourced department and a crisis of command that led to a tactical breakdown and this profound, lingering trauma for everyone involved. I mean, nothing captures that psychological toll better than this quote from one of the officers who was in that 2014 shootout. This wasn't just another bad day on the job. It was an event that left deep emotional scars on the very people who were sworn to protect the city. And that really leaves us with this fundamental question. The story of Stockton isn't just about crime. It's about the resilience of a community and the immense, incredible strain we place on our first responders. So when a city is facing crisis after crisis, how do we make sure that the system designed to protect it is actually strong enough to withstand that kind of pressure? That's all we have for this breakdown. To keep exploring the complex forces that are shaping our world, please make sure to like this explainer and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.